Well, hello and welcome to my video about the God particle and your God particle moment, which starts now. And you can find out more about this movie that we're about to make about the God particle at this web address, tinyurl.com/God movie. We're making a movie. We need your help. This is kind of an introduction to what the movie will be all about. It's based on my book, God Particle Physics for Dummies, at godparticlephysicsfordummies.com. Now, what this is all about is the tree of life and how the God particle has absolutely everything to do with you. And this is my interpretation of the Big Bang. And there's a timeline down at the bottom, and I'm going to connect the Big Bang with exactly what's going on in your life, everything that's going on in your life, all the events that take place moment by moment were actually started at the point of the Big Bang. And that's my picture of the Big Bang in there, 14 billion years ago. And then the first thing that is created in the Big Bang is the God particle. And it's created in the first trillionth of a trillionth of the first second of the Big Bang. Now that's a space of time that's almost unimaginably small. It is unimaginably small. Most of us might be able to imagine a tenth of a second. Some of us might be able to imagine a hundredth of a second, but very few of us can imagine a thousandth of a second. And I don't believe anyone can really imagine a millionth of a second. It's too small a slice of time. And then a billionth of a second is another thousandth of that, and a trillionth of a second is a thousandth of that, and a trillionth of a second is many, many thousands, is many zeros of a fraction of the first trillionth of a second. So all the God particles that the universe needed that are floating around in space-time right now and creating your thoughts, interacting with your thoughts, even as we speak, all of them were created in that tiniest slice of time that can possibly be. And I believe it was done by God, because that's why we call it the God particle. And you're going to see why in a minute. And so stay tuned to the end. But this is where it started, the first trillionth of a second, about 14 billion years ago in the Big Bang. Now pay attention, because what happens in the first several 100,000 years after the Big Bang is the expansion of the universe from that point in space-time. And space-time is not what you imagine it to, what most of us think of it. The space-time is actually expanding out from the point of the Big Bang 14 billion years ago. What space-time is expanding out into, or where it came from, we have no ideas, because it's beyond our ability to have any data at present. Maybe someday. But right now, space-time is expanding out like a balloon, and it all started 14 billion years ago in the Big Bang. Not really an explosion, just the start of this expansion of space-time. And again, the first thing that's created, and the only thing in the universe for several 100,000 years, is the God particle. Trillions and trillions, uncounted trillions. There's no number that we can put on the number of God particles. It's infinite. And it was the first basic fundamental building block of life, because the God particle creates everything else. The God particle makes the baryons have come together. The baryons are all the subatomic particles, and they actually don't even allow light to escape for the first 400,000 years of the Big Bang. There's no light. The Bible says in the beginning, let there be light and all that jazz. Well, it wasn't exactly like that. There was so much density of these particles at this for 400,000 years. That's the length of time that humans have lived on the planet and evolved to where we are now. Okay, the modern human. And in that time, there's no light in the universe. It can't get out from the density of all these subatomic particles called baryons. So for 400,000 years, it is really just the interaction of the God particle with the baryons. And then finally, about 500 million years ago, now that's another big expanse in time, atoms are able to form because the universe is less dense, and atoms can form, and it's called the reionization period, where actually in the first atom is hydrogen. That's why it's called number 1. Well, it's really called it really has atomic number of 1, because there's only one proton and one electron. But it's also the first element because it's so simple to form, and it comes from the baryons, the subatomic particles that are formed because of the God particles. So the God particles are growing the universe by expanding out and allowing and as the universe cools, the God particle is having more and more influence. Now you have elements about up to a billion, from a billion years ago, and therefore the elements come together. First hydrogen, then all the others, nitrogen, helium, carbon, which we are mainly composed of, iron, that the sun is composed of. The sun creates for us, and all the other heavy elements, uranium, oxygen, and then a couple of billion years ago, matter is starting to take place all over the universe. It's becoming a dusty place, is the way I imagine it, because matter is really starting to form in the first billion or 2 years of the universe. And then stars come together from the gravity that's created from all of this matter clumping together. And now we're at 3 billion years. And then the clusters of stars get together from the gravity that's increasing because of all the matter that's being created. And then 4 billion years ago, the galaxies are almost everywhere. And 5 billion years ago, they start to form the planets. Now, the planets probably formed all the way up until this time, but we know of one planet that started about 5 billion years ago, and that's the Earth. So about 4.5 billion years ago, the Earth is created from all this dust and all these stars conglomerating from gravity into galaxies, and then solar systems forming from the leftover dust after the stars are formed, and that gravity causes a planet to form. So 4.5 billion years ago, our own planet was formed. And life begins, it's actually about 5 billion years ago, and then life begins to form about 4.5 billion years ago. And the first forms of life are called the protists, the single cell animals. And I said that wrong. Actually, we think Earth was formed 5 or 4.5 billion years ago, and then life starts a billion years later as our own planet starts to cool. So life on Earth is in its very basic one-celled animals, the bacteria and the viruses. And then about 500 million years ago, we start to see animals that we know today, like fishes. And about 475 million years ago, we get plant life evolving on this planet. About 400 million years ago, insects start to appear. And about 300 million years ago, we have reptiles, and we know how that led to the dinosaurs from all the Jurassic Park movies. And about 200 million years ago, mammals are created and start to evolve. And we come from mammals, of course. And then hominids, which is an early form of primate that we resemble very closely, about 12 million years ago. And then about 200,000 years ago, we have modern humans evolving from the primates. And that went like this. About 5 million years ago, we had hominids. About 2.5 million years ago, we had Homo habilis, a little bit more of a human-like primate, evolving from the apes, the hominids. About 1.8 million years ago, we had Homo erectus, and that means a man that's starting to stand up on 2 feet. About 600,000 years ago, we had Neanderthals, an early form of man. And about 200,000 years ago, we see Homo sapiens take shape. And Homo sapiens are us. About 200,000 years ago to now is our modern man. So then modern man starts to evolve, and we move up from Africa into Europe about 100,000 years ago. And then about 70,000 years ago, we made it to the Mideast. About 60,000 years ago, we're in India. About 50,000 years ago, we're found in China. About 40,000 years ago, we're in the South Pacific. And about 20,000 years ago, we're in the Americas. The early American Indians and South American natives hit that continent about 20,000 years ago. And that brings us to you. You were born whenever, so many years ago, and you came from parents, obviously, Your DNA is shared 50% from your dad, 50% from your mother. There's no other way to get created, by the way. And then you went to school, and decisions are being made for you now. And this is why now I want to bring it back to God particle moments, because you can see it very clearly in your own life. All of the evolution that we've brought up to now is influenced by the God particle creating these events. And from these events, the probability of the next event increases. And so you being born is a probability event. Your parents get together and they have a union, and that creates you. And then they start to make decisions for you about the kind of schools that you're going to go to. And in school, you start to make decisions about which mentors you're going to really appreciate. And this is all influenced by the God particle floating around in your brain, because it floats around everywhere. And the God particle influences everything. So as you move on through your life, you're making decisions about your job and your career. And all of these decisions, again, are influenced by the God particle, because do I need to show? I'm going to show you how again in a minute as we run the clock back. Just wait for it. So all of these decisions are being influenced by the God particle that is expanding the universe all around us, and we stand inside that universe. So the God particle is influencing everything. We are actually on the edge of the universe's expansion. And all of these decisions, even your own decisions, are being influenced by the God particle, including your family and friends, and all of the decisions related to that. The books and movies that you read and go to see. These are decisions that are being influenced by the God particle, and everything in the universe, again, is flowing out of the probability of the God particle's interaction with billions and billions of other events in your life. So your future depends on the God particle relationship that you have built up, and all of the events that have built up to this point in time. So while you watch this video, this is the point in time that we're talking about. And this is what we're going to make our movie about. So I would like you to hang in there till the end. We're going to tell you about the movie and how you can participate. All right, so the future for you starts at this point. And just to show you how we got here, let's run the movie backwards now, so we get to the major point that I'm making in here. The God particles are all around you right now. They're circulating all throughout the universe. Your mind, your brain, your thoughts are part of the universe. You cannot detach yourself from the universe, even if you tried. There's no way. And so everything that's happened to you thus far has come about because of this major evolution from the Big Bang. And let's go over it again. Let's run the movie back. All the books and movies influenced by the God particle. All your family and friends and the decisions that they make for you influenced by the God particle. The jobs that you take and your career choices and your path through life influenced by the God particle, floating all around and influencing all other particles, all other events in the universe every second of your life. The mentors you chose to follow and to respect the most. The schools that were chosen for you by your parents and sometimes by you yourself. Your parents themselves, how they came to meet each other, thus creating you. All chosen by the path of the God particle throughout the universe. All of us came from people landing in America from Europe and migrating here from all over the planet from 20,000 years ago and up through today. They came from the South Pacific. Those people came from China and India. I mean, this is the evolution of our wandering throughout the planet. India, the Mideast, Europe, modern man, descending from Homo sapiens, who descended from Neanderthals, who descended from Homo erectus. We're at 1.8 million years ago and going backwards. Homo habilis, 2.5 million years ago. Hominids, the first real separation from primates that we know today in our own line of species and our own line of evolution, a couple million years ago. 200,000 years ago, us hominids, mammals 200 million years ago, reptiles 300 million years ago, insects 400 million years ago. Without all of these, by the way, we could not exist, because this is how all of our ancestors were able to eat 400,000 and survive. 400,000 years ago, the plants. 500 million years ago, the fishes. 3.5 billion years ago, the first tiny one-celled animals, animalcules, someone called them a long time ago. And all of that back to the first beginning of life that's created on Earth. Then the Earth created itself about 4.5 billion years ago. The Earth created from the planets forming around the sun, the leftover matter from the gravitational pull that creates the sun, and compresses all of that hydrogen into a big hot ball of gas called the stars, of which ours is one that gives us the energy for life. 5 billion years ago. The galaxies 4 billion years ago. The star clusters 3 billion years ago. The stars 3 billion years ago, and before that also matter 2 billion years ago, and rising from 1 billion years ago. The elements from 1 billion years ago, rising up from the atoms about 500 million years ago. There were no atoms for 500 million years after the Big Bang. That's an extraordinary amount of time, almost the time that it took for life to evolve on Earth. I mean, it's that kind of glacial time before we even have atoms. So before that, we had to have the baryons, the subatomic particles that make up the atoms, the protons, neutrons, electrons, and quarks, and all of that. And they evolved from the God particle. Again, the first thing to be created from the Big Bang about 14 billion years ago, in the first trillionth of a second of the Big Bang. So we've gone all the way back to the first batch of God particles that have ever been created. And they are what has made everything else evolve. You cannot have anything happen in the universe without the God particle evolving and pushing matter and making everything that matters matter, because the God particle is the basic fundamental particle of life in this universe. Again, that's what led to you through all of this evolution, all of these decision trees being made for you and then finally by you in the last few years of your life. That's the future. It starts from now. And we can trace it all the way back. I'm running the clock back again to the Big Bang because it's a significant evolution that I'm pointing out. I'm the first person, as far as I know, to point out the evolution of you and show you the connections that go all the way back to the Big Bang and in the first trillionth of a first second of the Big Bang. Now, we're making an experiment and a movie about the God particle and how it affects the future starting now. And we need you. We would like you to participate. And this experiment is being funded at KickStarter. And I want you to go there if you have any interest in participating, because this could be your God particle moment. Once the catch about this, the tricky part about this that I'm all about is that, because it's happening to me, is that when you find out about the God particle and you really understand about its significance, like I just showed you, and how it ties every single one of us back to the creator of the God particle, which has to be God. This is all in my book, by the way, God Particle Physics for Dummies, found on Amazon and at godparticlephysicsfordummies.com. You can get more information. And I would like everyone to read that before you volunteer for the movie. But what I want, major thrust of this one is to show you that you have a God particle moment right now. The decision you make next could affect the rest of your life, because you're going to either learn about the God particle in a very, very basic, fundamental way and be one of the first on the planet to really understand it, because it was just recently discovered in the Large Hadron Collider, and it's been confirmed. So I'm looking for people to help me publicize this message that is really universal and it's earth-shattering, because we can take our fate and our destiny in our own hands once we learn about the God particle and how it works. So to go to our movie and become a part of it, go to tinyurl.com/God movie. That'll take you to my Kickstarter page where you can contribute and become a part of this amazing new discovery. This experiment is going to be the first one that will actually prove to everyone of exactly how the God particle works on a daily basis, minute by minute, second by second, on our planet and within our society. You're part of all that, whether you like it or not. Again, you cannot detach yourself from the universe. Give it a try, and if you figure out a way, let me know. But you won't. I'm very confident of that. So you're part of it whether you like it or not. If you find out more about it, you can make it part of your life and make all the probabilities in the universe become your possibilities. Greater and greater possibilities. And that's what we're going to be talking about in our movie, which is also an experiment about the God particle. This is your God particle moment. Join us at KickStarter. You'll find it under God Particle Physics for Dummies, the movie, or the shortcut right here, tinyurl.com/God movie. Hope to see you there. Thank you and for watching, and may the force of the God particle field be with you always.